Hello, this is Edith Newmeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. I want to continue today with looking at what happened at Willow Creek with Bill Heipels. And in my last video, I don't think I addressed everything. And especially, I think the main um, point I really didn't address, which I really want to do today. But just kind of, again, I did some more research. And I even found in this article called Willow Creek's Bill Heipels Had Too Much Power, Scott McKnight on the Scandal. And it is by CP Church Ministries online. You can find it. And this article is talking mainly about the stand or the comments of Scott McKnight on the scandal. But in this article, I did find the accusations that were made against Bill Heipel as of July 10th, when this article was published. Now, I know in the meantime, I believe one of the women came out and accused him even of oral sex. And again, I don't know. That has not been investigated at this point. And how can you prove unless she kept her dress? How does that sound? But anyways, if somebody has oral sex with another person, whether they're performing it, they're made to perform on them or asked to perform on them, or somebody's performing it on the victim, I always think it's a consent. I mean, if somebody gets raped, then I can say, you know what, I was raped and I didn't want it, but that person forced me. So I don't know how you can force somebody to do to perform oral sex. I guess you could, but I cannot imagine that this happened, that this lady was forced into, oral sex, or somebody forced oral sex on her. But nevertheless, here are the accusations that were stated in this article. So they accused the Heipels of suggestive comments, whatever that is, suggestive comments. Maybe they suggest, oh, they have whatever, an affair or whatever. Suggestive comments. In other words, they were just suggestive comments. Extended hugs, an unwanted kiss, and invitations to hotel rooms. Okay, again, I hope these ladies who had invitations to hotel rooms knew what they were doing. And if they went to the hotel room and there was more, I hope they left. So these women obviously were not heard. And this article says they ultimately felt forced to go public. Well, I addressed this in my last video, and I still don't believe that these women were forced to go public. Okay? They may have not been heard as much as they wanted to in the church. And therefore, yes, went public. But again, I don't know what these women want. I don't know if, what their goal is with these allegations. I'm not saying that, and I said that in my last video, whether it happened or not, I don't know. There is no proof. Either way, there is no proof. And so this article, which really states, again, Scott McKnight's opinion about this scandal. Scott McKnight sounds like he is on the side of the women, and he is, of course, stating right away that Bill Hybels just had too much power. And I would not deny that at all. He also says another statement, um, and which I agree with it too. Autonomous churches therefore have autonomous pastors. And that means these pastors have no one to whom they answer other than the elders and deacons. Now, I somewhat agree with that, but even if you have, other church leaders like under the Methodist Church, they can still do what they want. There's no accountability. So the hierarchy, anytime you have a hierarchy in the church, you always have this top-down, of course, hierarchy. And so there's always going to be somebody on top. You cannot blame this on the autonomy of Willow Creek, that they were not affiliated with other with a denomination, and that somebody held them accountable. I don't think that is a good statement. I think this, however, the fact that there is always a misuse of authority in a hierarchy is absolutely the truth. And I believe that really happened, at Willow Creek. So this article has some interesting points, and I agree with it in many ways, but I also still don't believe that this was handled. Now, this uh, Scott McKnight, comes pretty hard down on the elder board and the pastors, the new pastors, and saying that they didn't handle things right. And I don't know what exactly that means, how it should have been handled. I have no idea, because if it would have been handled according to this McKnight, which I looked up, and he is not a bad Bible scholar. He's actually pretty good. Um, but, you know, he is definitely supporting the women. Um, and I just don't know. I don't know, if things should have been handled the way they were handled. Now, I also found another scandal that was actually going on at Willow Creek, in which they paid out, I don't know how many millions, for a volunteer uh, molesting a child. And Willow Creek paid out, I don't know how many millions. And, I'm wondering if maybe these women were in or are interested in getting some money for restitution. I don't know. But anyways, I finally actually did find, something about the accusations. So, meantime, though, there were more accusations coming out, and one of them is that Bill Hybels had oral sex with one of the women. Now, I just don't know, again, how far this needs to go in the public. I just don't know. Um, I know if it would be a politician, yeah, put it in the public. Everybody should know about it. But again, after how many years? I mean, did she keep a dress too that she can prove this actually happened? Like in the case of Bill Clinton, which is very, that case was very unusual. Somebody's keeping a dress, but she sure performed it, and then saying, "Oh, I was forced. I was just too young, and I was forced." Well, these women, have decisions to make as well. You know, um, when they're saying suggestive comments, you can correct somebody. Um, you know, extended hugs, um, push him away, unwanted kisses. Tell him, hey, I don't feel comfortable you kissing me. Stay to yourself. I don't like your cooties. I don't know. I mean, I just have to say something because, I mean, come on, unwanted kiss. What did somebody kiss? You know, kiss that person on the cheek, or was it a French kiss, or you know exactly what was it? I mean, can you please deal with that in privacy? Does it have to go out on public? Yes, I understand that Bill Hybels had this reputation and that everybody put him on this pedestal, and that's exactly also, you know, what Scott McKnight said, that maybe Bill Hybels just had too much power. But it did not have anything to do with the autonomous uh, character of Willow Creek. Now, Willow Creek, it was on top not only of their own church organization, but they were mentoring and giving advice to churches all over the world. So there is this Willow Creek affiliation, and many evangelical churches went to Willow Creek to train in worship, train in how to reach people. Um, you know, Bill Hybel did this leadership seminar where people were trained how to be good leaders, and then it's in itself is kind of a little strange for me because I attended these seminars, a couple of them, and I cannot compare the leadership of a worldly organization with the leadership of the church, because that's exactly, I believe, is where Willow Creek went wrong. Okay, went very wrong. So Willow Creek was an example for many churches around the world, and so it was even more, um, or Bill Hybel had even more authority than your regular church pastor. He was on top of many, almost like Willow Creek has its own denomination, and Willow Creek is kind of on top of many other churches to give them advice. So people assumed that Bill Hybel was a trustworthy person. The people at the elders at Willow Creek, you know, assumed that. And of course, anytime you have a hierarchy, you will have exactly that going on. And this Scott McKnight, actually wrote that in his statements as well. So, but what is the bottom line here? Why did this whole thing happen? Well, I believe it's because Willow Creek became too big and powerful. And in any organization where there's a lots of power, there's lots of abuse. Okay? Bill Hybel was up here as the executive. He had the elders underneath him. Okay? He was accountable to the elders. The elders protected him. And that is always the case, okay, in every church. But in Willow Creek is a mega church. I was shocked when I did this research. I looked at pictures of the actual building at Willow Creek, the Willow Creek Church building, and it is a mega building, okay? I'm thinking that there's nothing that is even close to having a church that is biblical. Willow Creek, I came to the conclusion Willow Creek is not really a biblical church. Okay? Now I know we all think about Willow Creek, we all think about church, the building, the church building, right? But of course, if you have listened to me, I believe the church is the congregation. The church is made up of the people, not the building. And according to Paul in Corinthians 14 and 12, all members come together. When they come together, they all are equally participating in this assembly. And the bigger you have an assembly, the less people are involved in this process, in this assembling process. You have more people than any regular church that are sitting in the pews being absolutely passive. And these are people that are definitely called sheeple. They're definitely sheeple. They're sitting there and they're just allowing this performance to happen in front of them. And that is really what Willow Creek did. Of course, they had, music performance and music teams and even other performances, dance performances and all kinds of stuff. And so the regular people were there to be entertained in a sense. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the true church which Christ had intended. And maybe that is exactly what happened to Willow Creek. I never ever thought about that because what I really enjoyed and liked about Willow Creek is that women were equally or could equally be active in the ministry at Willow Creek. And so what I read about Willow Creek was always very egalitarian. And for me, it was shocking to hear what happened with Bill Hybels. And I don't know I don't know what happens, okay? But I still believe it was something went on, okay? Something didn't go right. Whether and it wasn't handled correctly as well. And again, when I did my research, that's when I came across this mega institution, mega institution. And I never really thought about that. And I know it was, a mega church, but I never thought it was that much, that big. The building, when I looked at the building, it was like a theater. It was like a huge theater. And of course, what are you going to get from a building that is like a theater? You don't get what Paul had in mind. I want all of you, encourage you to read again 1 Corinthians 14, for instance, or 12, or 12 and to 14, to see exactly what Paul and Jesus had in mind with these house churches. You know that if you have followed me, you know that I'm very strongly a supporter of house churches or the organic church movement because they come so much closer to the intent of what the church is. Okay, the church is not something, a building. And that's another thing that I found. You put in church and you look at images, and what do you find? Church buildings. Nothing but church buildings. People still have in mind that, the church is a church building, never thinking that it's actually a community of believers or an assembly of believers. Most people don't even think it as such. We have we are so we're so stuck in this hierarchical, uh, institutionalized structure of what this assembly looks like. And that's where Willow Creek actually went wrong. Now, I read a book by the mentor of Bill Hybel, and his name is Gilbert Bilsekian, and I probably have mentioned him. And he is a really good egalitarian writer. And he also wrote a book about community called Community 101. But it seems like Bill Hybel did not very well apply that Community 101 um, to Willow Creek. It seems like Willow Creek over the years got out of hand. Now, such a mega church that Willow Creek built costs a lot of money. And when you build such a mega church, you have to keep people um, in membership. Okay, so you have to really do things to keep these members in the church. And so you just may do things that are not good. I don't know. But anyways, I know that Willow Creek started to go wrong a long time ago. And simply because it did not model after the true assembly that Paul uh, talked about in his letters, which was given to him by the Holy Spirit. So I thought I needed to add even more about, this where Willow Creek went wrong. And I'm realizing, because I have to do the research now, that there is there has been something majorly wrong with Willow Creek for many years. Here they're trying to teach other churches, how to do things, and yet they really don't go to the original intent. They stay stuck in this hierarchical structure that was started by the Roman Catholic Church. Now, Luther did not change that hierarchical structure, and so in the Protestant Reformation, it continued, and even with the evangelical churches that came even out of that Lutheran church, they kept that same wrong structure in place until we get to the evangelical churches, and they keeping the same bad structure. And when we do that, then authority can be misused, and there is not enough accountability in place. People on top are always kind of protected. They get haughty, and and we are human beings, right? We're human beings, and so we become haughty, we become proud, we become stuck up when we are in some of these positions. Like Bill Hybels, he stayed in his position the whole time. I mean, the whole time. Not once did he step down and say, you know what, I'll let somebody else do the job. So that in itself is pretty authoritative. So, but anyways, I want to finish up today, and I just wanted to bring that up. And I really think I'm glad I realized that, hey, all this accusation against Bill Hybel, I mean, they are nothing compared to what really happened, what really went wrong at Willow Creek. But what I brought up today are just some things to think about when we think about, our traditional church. Because how many mega churches do we have, in the United States? And I believe the bigger they get, the worse they get. Okay, that's just bottom line. The worse they get, the less they involve the people, and somebody is making the decision for everybody else. Somebody is doing the thinking for everybody else. Somebody is saying, well, I have the Holy Spirit and you don't, even though if they don't come out and say it. But when somebody, stands up there, every Sunday, then people started to believe, oh, he has the Holy Spirit and I don't. So we're automatically putting that person on a pedestal. And so we are automatically thinking, oh, this guy is better than us. And I see this over and over again. So I believe that this unbiblical hierarchy in the church is what's wrong. I know there's a lot of women, they call it Christian feminists, that are screaming, oh my goodness, Bill Hybel was just so bad and so inappropriate. Well, think about how inappropriate these women were too, okay? Not just how inappropriate Bill Hybel. Why are we saying, oh, Bill Hybel is inappropriate? Why? Because he was put on a pedestal, okay? Because he was up there on a pedestal, okay? And so we can accuse him. We can think as, oh, he is the one who's responsible. But not when we are having this more thinking that everybody is responsible in the church. And then these things would be regulated different, okay? Like if we give women real responsibility, to speak out, we encourage them more to speak out, and not be so passive, then maybe this would have been handled a little bit different. And I'm not, making any, I don't apologize for what he did, or, don't take it serious, because that's not what it is. I just think we need to look at the whole picture. And the picture is that, yep, because of the because the church was so big and Bill Hybel had so much power, this happened. Anyways, I'm going to finish up for today, and I hope that you will comment on this, because I really want to know people's comments. And I don't want really one-sided comments at all. Please think both sides, okay? And look at it really from a bigger picture. I don't want to judge people. I don't want to judge Bill Hybels, and I really don't want to judge these women either. I'm just suggesting what they could have done, differently. Anyways, let the Holy Spirit guide you, and leave some comments on the bottom.